everybody, welcome back to the latest edition of Terrace Talk. A tough week for Norwich City, two successive defeats on the road, both 2-0 against obviously two high-flying teams in the Championship, Sheffield United and Leeds United. Home comforts this weekend as they return to Carrow Road, hoping to get back to winning ways. Obviously, Swansea City are the visitors to Norfolk. With that, delighted to be joined by a good friend of mine and Swansea City fan, Chris Durcan, who... Chris, I think looking at the form table, Swansea are kind of in a similar boat to Norwich at the moment. It's 4 defeats in your last 5 in all competitions, 3 straight defeats. One of those as well against Sheffield United. You lost to a Premier League team as well in the FA Cup. And obviously last weekend, which I'm sure you're not going to want to speak about too much, a pretty heavy defeat in the South Wales derby. So how's the recent run of games been? I'd imagine pretty difficult.
Yes, you've done well to get me on the podcast today, I must admit, because it is. It's not been the most joyful week as a Swansea fan, or really starting a new year. And the form's not been great. We're it's just that same old story when you start to have that glimmer of hope of maybe potential, like you're counting the points away to the playoffs, it then comes again in a big bad run. But no, this week's been pretty poor. As in, we started off well against Sheffield United, got that early goal. Red card didn't help us in the second half. So that could have been a good response after the weekend, which we will not mention. And there'll be no more mention of it because that was not a good day. But yeah, it was a somewhat good response against Sheffield United. That they're a top team. We've got to give them that. And a red card that shouldn't have been a red card, but according to the appeal system, it should be a red card. So there you go.
Yeah, 15th in the table at the moment, 2 points behind Norwich, 8 points off the playoffs. I mean, we all know the Championship, these things can change pretty quickly. The picture can change. I know, if Norwich were, say, to mount a run now, that I think the optimism and the feeling around this season can change so quickly. So what sort of your hopes and expectations, I suppose, for the rest of the season? Do you think Swansea can bridge that gap? I mean, 8 points at the moment. Is that possible between now and sort of May time?
Anything's possible in the Championship. That's what I'd say. But as you can see, I think Swansea, we're just, Championship team at the moment. And that's going to be the case for the next few years. Hopefully, we say it like 8 points off the playoffs, but equally we are only 8 points above the drop zone. I don't fear. I don't think there's going to be any problems there. But obviously this form recently has not been great. But I think we're going to be all right in terms of that. But yeah, you never know. We could always have a late push. As I said at the start of the year after our win against, I guess, Luton was our last win, I think, and it looked like I can't remember how many points off, maybe 4 or so points off the playoffs at that point. And then it was thinking, we could do it. Like if we get a few runs together, but that is just a false hope. So I would say mid-table, maybe just slightly below mid-table by the end of the season.
Yeah, of course, Luke Williams been in charge now for just over a calendar year. I know when we spoke kind of in what would have been September time now, last season maybe was a bit more of a transitional season, obviously adapting to a new manager, a new system and all that brings. Norwich are kind of in a similar boat at the moment. The start of this campaign, I think you sort of maybe hoped for a top half finisher, maybe push towards the playoffs. How's he viewed, I suppose, at the moment? Because I know there was the links to West Brom quite recently as well. So in terms of him and the job he's done at Swansea so far, are you happy or disappointed?
Yeah, I think we've kind of had like this, kind of the same old story. I think he's probably the same as what I was saying maybe in September. I do like Luke Williams. I like the way he's trying to play football. I think since then, as you say, we've had the West Brom rumours and then even a not so good result against West Brom at the same time as those rumours were going on. It's, I think it adds speculation and even his comments after one of the games. I can't remember which game it was recently, but it wasn't leaving us with that much hope. But now it's kind of died down again. So I'm not really sure what's really been the latest and happening with that. What I would want to see though, it's just some investment. It's just a few more players just to bulk up the squad and then to give him a squad to be able to play in a Championship. And who knows? I think he could be a manager that could take us to that next step if we just give him a few more players. But it feels too late in this season to be able to change too much. So maybe if he is still around summer, we've just got to invest. I think we're going to maybe mention, but yeah, new owners, hopefully more money coming in soon is what we hear.
Yeah, it certainly feels like possession-based football has been a key pillar so far of him and Swansea, which of course has always been something I've associated with Swansea anyway, but feels like now second in the table in terms of possession and average possession over the course of the season. So that's obviously a factor in the way you play, the style. Is that probably still an attractive thing to Swansea fans? Do you enjoy watching that brand of football?
Yeah, 100%. I think it kind of brings us back to like glory days and just thinking about those great moments that we have had in our near past. But I think we've got to do something with the possession. I think like thinking back to when we were like firing and stuff like that, and we had more possession than teams, we outpassed teams. We were doing more with the possession, and some games we do. And like there are some games I watch Luke Williams, and it's like this is great. Like we're playing great football, we're creating chances. And it's looking good. But sadly, that's not happened enough this season. I think the start of the season, we were really struggling to score goals. We then went on a spell. We did pick into it and get some goals. But now we're like, again, it's hard to create chances. We're not really got that. We've not been set on a striker the whole season. We've been changing back and forth. And that doesn't help. And one of the reasons is probably because the chances we're not creating for someone is just not good enough. And so I think that's the only thing. I love possession football. I love trying with the Swansea way and identity that we've had. I love just the factor of that. But we want to be creating more chances. And I think that's the one thing.
Yeah, I know Russell Martin probably has suffered a little bit from that in terms of Southampton and the way dominating possession is great, but when you don't do anything with it, it's ineffective because ultimately you're not scoring the goals and keeping them at the other end to get the points you require. You spoke a little bit there about investment, maybe obviously in terms of the January window is now open. Swansea yet to bring me in the building. I know at the time of recording, you're being heavily linked, and I think he might even be in Swansea. Hannes Delrue, the defender from Burnley, I think he's expected to be signed and in the matchday squad by the time you head down to Carrow Road. Defence, obviously, clearly an issue for the Swansea at the moment. Obviously, Darling, as we're going to mention very shortly, out for a period of time for suspension. So in terms of the signings in January more generally, are you disappointed you've not added any further players, or are you expecting Swansea to have a late surge kind of between now and the end of the window?
Yeah, I think it is disappointing we're not got anyone. I think it's disappointing that like you've got so many months from August, so many months to prepare and to think who we want. And it doesn't seem like we really know. Like Coleman's come out and he says like he's only going to sign someone if like he knows it's going to like really help the team. But it's like there must be players out there that will help our team. And so it's just working out, are we just going to be not signing anyone again? Is it going to be a same old Swansea transfer window? Is the change in the ownership and stuff like that actually going to change anything? We just don't know. I think that lad from Burnley's come in. I think it's a loan though. And so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think with Harry Darling out, we need centre back in. I'm not sure if he's going to be straight into the team though, is the problem, because he might need some time to adjust. But yeah, we will have problems because we're not sure Darling's going to even sign his contract come the end of the year. I think the latest on that it's been put on hold and they're just going to work it out at the end of the season is what I heard. And so that doesn't really reassure us. So we might be looking for a more permanent centre back as well going forward. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's just Swansea. Like, who knows? I might be very surprised, but I'm not going to go optimistic into a transfer window as a Swansea fan.
Yeah, if we talk a little bit about ownership on that Harry Darling red card out for 3 games, how big a blow is that for Swansea heading to Norwich? You know, obviously the likes of Josh Sargent looks like he's on the way back. You know, clearly a good striker at this level. You'd probably want one of your, or maybe even arguably your best defender available. So I suppose him not making that trip to Norfolk, just how big a blow is that?
Don't need to worry when you got Super Benny Cabango, Welsh international at centre back. But no, yeah, it's a worry. It's just annoying. I don't get like, what's the point of an appeal system if they don't overturn something that's not a red card. I don't think it's just Swansea fans. I've heard many fans, many pundits say that is not a red card. It's very confusing why it wasn't overturned. You would have thought after the appeal it would be fine. I think the only reason why the red card was given was because the Sheffield United players came charging like all around and were so angry. And I think it's such a clever tactic, because if you like work everyone up, then the referee then thinks it's a much bigger thing than it is. I don't think he's hardly touched him. Like, he's completely missed the ball. Like, I don't know what he's doing. He's missed it. But he's not touched Brewster that much. And I just don't really get what Brewster was doing the other day. Like, was on loan with us, celebrating his heart out, and he's rolling around on the ground. I thought he was a jack, but maybe not.
Yeah, that's probably the state of Championship refereeing as a general rule of thumb this season. We'll open that can of worms on another day, because we could be here for a long time talking about that. In terms of the ownership, obviously there's been a little bit of a change at Swansea since we last spoke. I know we've spoken before. You've always kind of said about maybe the lack of presence of the previous owners, the lack of investment, maybe kind of in a similar boat to a lot of other clubs where they kind of neglected it a little bit, not put that money into the right areas to bring the players in to make Swansea competitive. I suppose with this fresh new ownership, is there new or fresh optimism and sort of a better feeling around the place in terms of that and what it could potentially bring for the future of the club?
We'll have to wait and see. I think we'll have to wait and see. Like, we've heard it all before. Like, as in, I think back to 2016, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is going to be taking us to the next level. This new ownership is going to be taking us to the next level." We were sold a complete lie. It was horrendous. We then got relegated. Not had any investment since, and so we'll see. Like, as in, I think he does speak a lot of sense sometimes, but he's probably just feeding us what we want to hear. We want to now see it now in action. This transfer window hasn't started off like that, and so we'll just wait and see. But hopefully it'll get better. But American owners being taken over by American owners, who knows?
Yeah, well, time will tell with that one. Now, I suppose taking the attention forward to the game this weekend, in terms of a key player from the Swansea camp, I mean, who would you pick out? Because there's a lot of notable names still, the likes of Matt Grimes. He's, of course, been pretty much a stalwart for Swansea in midfield down the years, always a good player at this level. You've, of course, got the likes of Cullen, who scored 8 goals for you this season. Feels like he's maybe made that step up. You mentioned Ben Cabango earlier, and his presence in the defence. So is there a key player or a couple of key players you could pick out for Norwich fans to be wary of?
Yeah, I think those names you mentioned, good players like, Grimes has just been with us for many years. I do like Franco joining him in midfield this year. I think I said it even in September, like early on in his, maybe only a few games. It's just his passion. He has real passion. He's like never die. Like, he's just constantly running around, constantly trying to tackle. I think he understands it. But I think maybe Ronaldo would pick out. I think he won a penalty at Carrow Road last season against you guys, if I remember rightly. And yeah, he needs to add more goals, he needs to add more assists, but he does look good. He always looks kind of, he could do something on the ball. And mainly just because he got a penalty against you guys last season. So I wonder if he can do the same. I wonder if he can add a little bit of flair to the wing as well. But we'll see.
Yeah, zooming out a little bit. Just intrigued to get your take on Norwich from afar. I suppose, have you seen much of us this season? Obviously, at the moment, only 2 points ahead of you in the Championship table. Complete change of management. There's the change of ownership. A lot of changes in terms of the playing personnel, changes of coaches. So a lot of sort of transition going on at the moment within the football club, and maybe the ambitions are pitched a little bit different this season than maybe previous years in the Championship. But what do you make of Norwich from afar?
Yeah, as in, I think you've gone on you've had quite a good home record this season, is maybe what I remember. But so it might just need to pick up on your away form. It's funny though, just not seeing Norwich, like thinking back to the years when you are always competing at the top of the Championship. So now it seems like maybe the last 2 years or 3 years or so that you've dropped yourself down to the mid-tables around us. Like, it's quite amazing that we're just 2 points off each other. And it seems like it has been kind of that case for the last year or so. And so, yeah, I think a fairly similar to us, I think it's going to be a really good contest on the weekend. Both of us going to be wanting to just get closer to the playoffs rather than closer to the relegation zone. And yeah, 3 points will take us 1 point above you. So I can't wait.
Yeah, so with that, how do you see the game unfolding? I mean, Swansea have had a little bit more joy at Carrow Road in recent years. The 2-2 draw, of course, last time at back end of last season. The 3-0 victory under Russell Martin, a pretty grim day for any Norwich fan that was at Carrow Road on that particular occasion. But previous times to that, Norwich have had some, pretty positive success against Swansea. I remember a few wins, the 1-0 Emi Buendia in the promotion year for Norwich, and that was obviously a season where Swansea were up there as well in the Championship. So there's been some pretty competitive times. Even the 1-0, I think Marco Stiepermann in the year COVID season behind closed doors, where again both teams had sort of ambitions to try and get promoted. So with all that, how do you see this game? Because it does feel a little bit different maybe to those previous tussles. Two teams a little bit more in that mid-table pack, trying to push closer towards the playoffs and try and bridge that gap. So how do you see that? How do you see this game, I suppose, in comparison to those ones?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think it's going to be more of a, going into it, both teams seem like we need to turn around this form. I think probably more so us than you, because you've played two top teams in your last two fixtures. And yeah, I think we need a result. It's going to be tough away from home at Carrow Road, and maybe the result is a draw. I don't want to draw, I want to win. But as in, that might be just to get some points ticking. We just can't keep this run of defeats going since it was Portsmouth game, which was pretty poor. And so hopefully we do pick up at least a point. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Both teams are going to come out for it. I think it could be actually a really good contest. It'll be interesting. I don't think Norwich, you might be able to correct me, but I don't think you're going to want us to keep as much possession as we tend to keep in games. I don't think you'll let us do that, especially at Carrow Road. And so I think it could be quite an open game. We saw that 2-2, wasn't it, last season at Carrow Road. And so who knows? Could be another 2-2, or it could be a 3-2 to Swansea. Who knows?
Yeah, certainly feels like two teams that want the ball on the floor. Who's going to get the possession first? Because it is about which team can dominate that possession, because it's both teams that want to do that and trying to create those opportunities, I suppose, at the other end to score the goals. I feel Swansea, certainly in the reverse game, were pretty aggressive from minute one, and that obviously allowed you to get the early goal. And then from that moment on, you just controlled the possession and probably sort of frustrated Norwich on that particular occasion. I feel like that could almost be the way this game unfolds a little bit on Saturday. With that, I'm going to push you for an exact prediction. You mentioned there maybe a draw, but hoping for a Swansea win. A couple of predictions there. I mean, Norwich are just below Swansea in terms of the head-to-head. Swansea have won 26 games in this fixture. Norwich won 25, 11 draws. So Norwich could potentially draw ourselves back level, or do you see it going the other way and Swansea pulling further clear in the overall record?
We're going to turn things around after a horrendous week. I think it's going to be 2-1 Swansea.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope you're wrong there, to be fair. I think Norwich is going to be a big game. Obviously, 12:30 kickoff at Carrow. Really looking forward to it. Should be a pretty good game. Chris, thank you for joining me on the show again. Lots of good content, of course, coming your ways across our channels between now and that game on Saturday. We'll be down at Colney tomorrow speaking to Johannes Hoff-Torp. So the full press conference will be available tomorrow afternoon on our YouTube channel. I think Connor might be down at the Fans Social Club tonight speaking to Emi Marcondes. So I think that will be on our YouTube channel as well tomorrow morning. So plenty of good content coming your way as you build up to this one. Of course, Carrow Road, 11:30 for Team News Live on here as well. Of course, got the Pinker Plus app as well. Go and check that out for all the written content. We feel like it's good value for money. Of course, the transfer window shuts in a couple of weeks as well. So if Norwich do any late business, doesn't feel like that way at the moment. But if they do, then it'll all be covered on there, of course, as usual. So with that, we're going to sign off. Thanks for joining us this evening. And of course, let's hope for a good game of football on Saturday.